Hey, my name is Stephen Ridley, and you're listening to the Us People podcast with the lovely Savia Rocks, keeping it positive.
Hey guys, and welcome to another episode of the Us People podcast. I'm your host, Savia Rocks, and today I'm humbled to have Stephen here with me, who is a recording artist. Stephen, thank you so much for taking your time and your positivity to come on the Us People podcast. How are you?
Pleasure. Yeah, very well, thank you.
Perfect. So I'm going to jump into our first question for you, Stephen. So I always love to ask people about their background of where they grew up and how that influenced them to be the person who they are today, because I know that has such a big impact. Could you tell me a little bit about who you are and how that molded you to be the person who you are today?
Yeah, I mean, who I am and where I come from are two different things, and it's funny because that's a distinction I think it's important to make for anybody who's coming from humble beginnings, let's say. But I come from a village in the north of England, just outside Sheffield. There was 40 people in my village, if you can believe that.
Wow.
And the second youngest person after me was my dad. So it was really different. And the nearest town was Doncaster. The nearest city was Sheffield. It's just the working class part of England. It's not particularly an inspiring place. The staple of my childhood, honestly, was boredom.
Fair enough.
I wanted too much from life. I remember just being burdened by the question, is this it? I'd look around, I'm like, is this it? And every now and then we go to like my mum's friend's house or something, and that would be a thing. Is this it? And that was it. That's where I come from. We travel. My dad, if you've ever seen the film The Pursuit of Happiness, that was very similar to our life. My dad sold a product, and that product was very expensive, and he only had to sell like one of them a year. And if he did, then we're good. And if he didn't, then we're not. And I'd travel with him, and my mum would often to be like, why are we going on holiday to a coal factory in central India? And you know what I mean? So I had a couple of weird holidays, and but you know, that was it. And it's the weirdest thing. I was not a happy child, through no fault of my parents or anything, but I had a lot of mental illness as a kid. Like I wasn't happy. I was unfulfilled. I was uninspired by the future in front of me. And I was that from a very young age. Like I couldn't get distracted by my toys and stuff. I was looking around me. I was looking at where am I going?
Yeah.
I was looking at my surroundings, and I was like, I don't want any of this. I don't want this. And this is supposed to be what I'm working at school to. I was like, this whole game doesn't make sense to me. And that was really the staple of my childhood. And not looking for sympathy when I say that. I'm just speaking because there might be other people that feel that way. And that was me.
How is it for you now compared to back then? I know we're going to jump a little. We're going to keep jumping backwards and forwards, but how was it for you? How is it for you now? Do you feel fulfilled in life, or do you feel like you're still fulfilling your pathway because you still have a journey in front of you? But do you feel like you're still connecting to yourself and learning every day a bit more? And how does that feel to you?
Yeah, I've learned that things aren't black and white, and that things happen on scales. So am I fulfilled? It's not a choice between fulfilled and unfulfilled. It's a sliding scale. I'm much more fulfilled than I've ever been. Can I be more fulfilled? Absolutely. And I work in that direction. But as I've found fulfillment, and the simple answer to your question, honestly, is yes. I don't worry about me anymore. And that's not because I'm so perfect. It's just my attention's got so much bigger. And my attention's come out of this 2x2 box called me, my happiness, my feelings, my fulfillment, my success, my purpose, my passion. I'm sick of me. I was trapped in a cage called Steven. It's a tiny box, but we live in a huge fucking universe. Sorry for my French.
No, you're allowed. Go for it. I love it.
We have a big box, and I started putting my attention bigger than me, and I found a freedom that I'd not found through any of the other things I'd done. And I tried a lot of selfish pursuits to some success.
Yeah.
Real freedom and happiness to me didn't come from the Prada or the paycheck, or even from traveling and doing what you love and all those things that people say. It came from when I started being of service to people. And when I started being of service at a greater level, that is fulfilling, like genuinely fulfilling. And sometimes sometimes I get paid, sometimes I don't. It doesn't influence me anymore. Pay me or don't pay me. I'm here to put light into the world. I'm here to make the world more beautiful. And I'm going to do that on the good days, on the rainy days. I'm going to do it when I don't feel like it. I'm going to do it whether you clap or don't clap. That's why I'm here. And when I got to that point in my life, a lot of people are like, oh, I get to this I don't give a shit point. No, I got to I do give a shit point.
Yes.
I do give a shit point, and nothing you can do can stop me giving a shit. And that's power to me. You can't pay me. Nothing you can do can stop me giving a shit. I care. That's my slogan. It's not this I don't care. I don't care. No, I do care. And that's my freedom. And you can't take it away from me. You can take everything. You can take this fancy flat. You can take the money. You can take my friends. You can't take that away from me. You can't take my courage, my creativity, my persistence, my kindness, my genuine curiosity in how the other fellow is doing. You can't take that away. And so I'm unlimited and I'm invincible. And that's how I feel. And the day-to-day situation might change, but my feeling and my commitment doesn't, because I'm married to this now. I'm not flirting. I'm in. Yeah. And that's it. I still have work to do. I still have expansion to do. There are things I want to achieve. The world isn't, I have a lot to contribute basically. And that's going to be my journey.
See, this is another question that I'd love to ask you. Define who you see when you look in the mirror, and what does your reflection say back to you?
Yeah, I mean, I used to hate myself. That's the funniest thing. I used to feel very ugly on a physical level, and on any level. I just didn't like who I was.
I know how you feel.
I didn't like any part of myself. I didn't like my big teeth and my sticky out ears, and nothing looked how I wanted it to look. I looked at the guys on the TV, then I looked at me, and I was like, fucking hell. I just felt like an unlovable thing. And even I'd walk around the streets and I'd think, everyone's so good looking. I'm so fucking ugly. That's a horrible thing to say to yourself, but it was true for me. And no amount of birthday card slogans made me feel any different. And no amount of you're a special flower would make me feel different. And I didn't realize at the time that it was coming from a very, very non-physical place. It was coming from my actions and inactions with regard to my potential. It was coming from the fact that, why did I feel ugly? It's not because I didn't look like Matthew McConaughey. It's because I wasn't living at the size of Matthew McConaughey. I know I have a capacity to do things on a big scale. And when I'm doing that, the answer now is I just don't look in the mirror very often. Like, that's the reality of it. And when I do look in the mirror, I'm sometimes surprised by what I look like. I don't know if you've ever had that, but I look and I'm like, is that
That's me?
my face? Like, I don't feel like I should look like that. But the truth is I don't really care, because I know I'm beautiful, because I create beauty in others. I create beauty in my life. Like the privilege of being an artist is I dedicate my entire day to creating beauty and to putting that into the world. And any money I do get back, I just spend it on things which I find beautiful. Yeah. And so I live in this like heavenly atmosphere of just creating and purchasing beauty. Any money I get, I spend it on microphones and studio equipment and like, you know what I mean? I'm that guy. So I feel pretty and I love myself because I behave in a way that I think is lovable. I admire myself because I do things which I think are admirable. And that's why it comes from my actions. It doesn't come from a mantra that I do for 5 minutes in the morning sitting on the floor. It comes from the things I do with the other 23 hours in the day. It's an actions thing. And I do those actions when I feel like shit. I do those actions when I feel ugly. I do those actions when I feel pretty. That's what ethics is. That's what integrity is to me. It's what I do. And COVID's a great time right now. It's just me. So what am I going to do? Because I can sit and watch Breaking Bad all day, and I can jack off to porn, and I can do that, and no one's going to know except me. And then I wonder, why don't I like myself, and why do I feel like a piece of shit, and why don't I feel like I deserve anything? And you don't need money for that. You don't. There's no barrier to entry to you becoming the best version of yourself. You don't need anything. Doesn't matter what position you're in. You can start that right now, because it's just, what you admire. The qualities that you think are good. Yeah. And so you just start adopting those qualities bit by bit, And then you gradually become someone you're like, you know what? I fucking like myself.
See, who
Can't
has
fake it.
who has been the biggest influences in your life? Who has helped you to become this person that you're talking about now?
Um, well, it's funny. Like the reason I'm on the show today is I love listening to shows like this. I didn't get this information from my family, and it wasn't within my friends. That wasn't the circle I come from. I
Yeah.
don't come from, you know, we didn't really talk about my feelings growing up. It- my brother's a manly man. My dad is a manly man. We didn't talk too much about how we feel about this, and
Was it
we
hard to
didn't.
talk about your feelings, Stephen?
I just felt so much. I felt so much relative to everybody around me, and everybody else just seemed to be satisfied with this deal, and I wasn't. I was suffering with a very quiet, insane desperation.
Yeah.
It was this quiet suffering, and inside of me there was just hurricanes, but I had nowhere to I just felt like nobody feels like me in the world. Everybody just seems so happy with this, and at the time I thought there was something wrong with me. What's wrong with me? Even like, I went and I became an investment banker, which was a crazy place to
Yeah.
go to from working in a village, right?
Yeah.
And I'm supposed to have made it. And I look around this office and everyone's strutting around like they've made it. And I feel suffocated. What's wrong with me? How am I not happy? I've got a Prada suit. I've got a fucking Mont Blanc. I've got a Rolex. I live in a penthouse. Why am I not happy? I never had this stuff. And um, it was very hard. It was very, very hard to even confront my feelings because of how many of them there were. I felt an overwhelming amount. And that was challenging, honestly, because where do you start? How do
Yeah.
you start?
Yeah.
Um, and to answer your question, where I found solace, it was through the internet, honestly, and it was through finding avenues like this podcast and avenues. I'd listen to. I'd find somebody who inspires me on YouTube, for example, and I'd watch everything that they've ever said, and then I'd go to the next person, and then and that's it. And it didn't matter if they were in my field or if they weren't in my field. I don't care about that. I wasn't looking for that. I've always studied the successful actions of people I admire. I don't care about their shortcomings. Everybody's got shortcomings, but there's always something I can learn from the next guy. And even I continue that to this day when I'm on aeroplanes. I always talk to the dude next to me, especially like more often than not. Now I'm flying business class or first class, and that to me is like a fucking trip. And I'm always curious, what did you do to get in here? Like, I want to know what you're doing because I don't feel like I belong in here. So I want to know what you did in case my thing doesn't work out. And I'm just like learning from them all the time. And yeah, yeah,
Oh dear, that's too funny. So let's talk about your passion for
yeah,
music, okay?
yeah.
Because I believe that music is a healer. It can heal you in bad situations. It can also heal you in really, really good situations. But have you ever been in a situation where music has helped you heal
Oh,
and come out of a situation?
my entire childhood. I know this is a weird thing to say, but I would not have made it. I just wouldn't have made it. There was no way because what music does is it allows you to escape
Yes.
instantly. As soon as I press Rolling Stones Miss You comes on, and I'm no longer stuck in a village. I'm somewhere much more glamorous and I can see a future. And now I've got something to live for because that could be. It's music paints a soundtrack to situations that haven't occurred yet. That's
Yes.
it. And those situations inspire me. Those situations are what I'm going to work for. Those moments are what I'm going to work for. I would listen to bossa nova, and I'm like, one day I'm going to go to Brazil. God damn it, I'm going to dance to this. I'm going to dance on the beach. I can feel how she feels in my arms when I'm dancing with her. I'd listen to love songs, and even though I don't have any love in my life, and there isn't anybody right now, I'm a single guy, and I spend all day sitting on my piano, and I write love songs, and I have intimacy in my life because that's what music affords. Music's so powerful for that reason. It's so far beyond words. It's so far beyond other art forms because it's so intimate. Like
Yeah.
I can look at a painting on a wall, but it's a bit removed to me. Whereas music, it invites me to contribute the movie. I'm going to give you the soundtrack, but you're going to make the movie in your mind when you listen to it. And it invites the audience inevitably to become movie directors, to become artists themselves. That's good music to me. And there is no greater therapy I have found than that. And that is 100% the beauty of my life and why I do what I do. Because I want to give that experience to people on as broad a scale as possible. And I wouldn't do it otherwise. There's other things I can do. I could have stayed in banking. I could do a lot
Yeah.
of things. I just give a shit about this because it feels like the best use of me. And I'm in love with music, and it's more than therapy. It's therapy's like it. Therapy suggests like there's a problem to solve and blah, and then one day you're going to finish therapy. But music's not just a negative. It doesn't just solve a negative. It also creates
Exactly.
a positive. It creates universes. It shapes the dreams of tomorrow. It literally paints better realities to me. And when I've been in my worst situations, it cost me nothing to put on Sting and close my eyes and know that one day I'm going to be in Italy with her and she's going to be beautiful. And it cost me nothing to put on Frank Sinatra or Dean Martin. How lucky can one guy be? But she kissed me. And I can see my wedding when I listen to that. So it doesn't matter that I'm lonely now, because I know one day I'm going to have that moment. We're going to dance together and the friends are going to be there. And I only know that through the music because I
Yeah.
create that movie. So,
How
yeah.
was it for you when you first went on stage for the first time and you performed in front of a live crowd? What did that do to you emotionally inside?
Um, well, there's two answers. The two answers. The first time, I don't actually remember this at all, but apparently when I was 5, we were on a boat, and I walked off from my parents when they were in a shop. It was a ferry going to Amsterdam from London,
Yeah.
and they had a pianist in a bar, and I just walked up onto the stage when he was midway through playing a song, and I tapped him on the shoulder and said, "Can I play a song?" And I could only play with one hand at the time, and I was playing "Mary Had a Little Lamb," and then my parents heard this on the tannoy, and they're like, "We've heard him practicing this over and over. Where's Stephen?" And then they found me. They just found me in the middle of this room, apparently like 600 people, and then there I am playing one finger with a pissed off pianist stood next to me because I'm getting all the cute claps. Um,
Naturally, you're gifted. Hey.
yeah, and then the first time I can consciously remember playing was I was at school, and it was horrific. I went to an all boys school, and
Oh.
there was an all girls school over the road, and the dream at an all boys school is just to get that excuse to get into the all girls school, and the only way in is to play in their assembly.
Yep.
And so I'd been dreaming, performing in front of the mirror every day for 4 years, imagining the one day that I go in there and I get to have this moment. And I've been in there performing Robbie Williams in front of the mirror and giving it the big one. I knew every step I was going to do. And then when it came my time and my music teacher said, "Oh, you've been asked if you would like to play in the assembly over there." I was very excited and nervous. And I wore a light grey uniform, and I went in there. I forgot all of the lyrics. I was so nervous. I played about 30 seconds of song, forgot the lyrics, and peed myself in a light grey suit in front of 1,600 girls. And then I ended the song halfway through after about a minute, 15 seconds, stood up and ran off the stage. That was my first experience performing.
Oh wow.
Yeah, it was terrible. It was absolutely.
How did you even overcome that afterwards?
Um, I love music. I'm not doing
Yeah.
music to get girls.
It's in you. It's naturally in you.
Yeah, when I listen to music, I am music. And I couldn't, I didn't perform until I was 22 after that, which is when I quit my job. I left my job. I walked out of the office. I walked down the road. I saw a piano in a thrift shop. I was in a state of shock because I just quit my job I had no idea what I was going to do next. Nobody quits investment banking. Nobody quits. You get paid too much to quit. And I quit with no idea what I'm going to do next. And I'm not from a big rich family that's just going to bail me out. I got no safety net, and I don't know what's coming. And I was in a shock, and I saw a piano in a thrift shop. I bought that piano for £100. I pulled it into the middle of the street. I lived in a penthouse at the time, so I knew I wasn't going to be able to get it home. And then I just played in the street. And that was the third performance of my life. That one went better because I was nervous as hell. I was very nervous because of how naked I feel when I play in front of people. Because you said, was it hard to share your feelings? Well, I'm sharing my feelings on a whole new level when I'm playing music, because I'm sharing the most naked part of me. So I'm doing that in the middle of the street, and nobody even gives, I know nobody even gives a shit. They're going where they're going. They're going to get the bus. They're going to get the coffee. But I wasn't playing for them in that moment. I was playing because I needed music. I needed music like a thirsty man needs water. And I couldn't wait to go home and go to the keyboard. I need a piano now. And I just take my £100. I need to play it now. And he wouldn't let me keep the piano in the shop. Fine. Well, I'll put it in the street and I'll just play. And I was playing for me. And I play with my eyes closed. And I finished playing this song. I turned around. The street was completely blocked. It was about 600 people, dead quiet. I didn't know there was anybody there. I just had a feeling somebody was looking at me. And I turned around and the 600 people stood there dead quiet. And they didn't clap. And I didn't say anything. And then after what feels like 2 years, but it's probably about 3 seconds, I took off my hat as a joke and I threw it on the floor. And then everybody laughed. And then when they laughed and clapped, I exhaled. And when I exhaled, I just couldn't stop crying. I just convulsively was crying. A hat filled up with coins, which was fucking insane to me that I just got paid for doing what I love. I'm like, are you kidding me? That happened before. And the trapped emotion of 22 years came out in that moment. And I could not stop crying. I cried for about an hour and a quarter. And I felt like I finally found a crack of light. It wasn't like, oh, I've figured out my life. I just found a crack of light after 22 years in the dark. And that was a crack of light. It was a crack of something I'm interested in doing. This is something I'm interested to come back and do tomorrow. This is something that feels like it's worth my time. It seems like it's going to be fun. It seems like it's an adventure. This seems like living. This seems like a real thing. I could do this. And that was the third performance of my life. So they were the first 3 performances.
I love the way you explain that to me. See, it's funny because you went from investment banking, real estate, fund manager, if I'm correct.
No, I didn't do fund managing or real estate. I helped very big companies buy and sell other very big companies.
Okay. So that's how it works. Now I know. Thank you.
Yeah.
So you done all these things, but inside you decided to one day just get up and say, that's it, I've had enough, I'm gone.
Yeah, it's true.
Do you think that more people should do that? Get up one day and say, you know what, I've had enough, I'm gone. If something isn't fulfilling you inside, but there's a positivity inside you that is shining a light somewhere to push you out into the world to do something that you love, not knowing that you don't know what direction you're going to go into, would you, as a person, Stephen, tell them to do it?
No.
No,
it's not funny. Because I couldn't do that responsibly. And I'll tell you why. When I left banking, I told everybody, you all need to do this. I was trying to prove everybody right. Prove everybody wrong and prove I'm right. And I tell everybody, you're all stupid. You little rats working in the rat cage. Look at you, like you'll never be happy, blah, blah, blah. Look, I've learned that everybody's got their own pressures in life. Everybody's dealing with different responsibilities. Everybody's got different things to think with. I don't necessarily think that it's the best thing for a single mom to just up and leave a job. I don't think that's right. Or a single dad. I don't think it's necessarily right for somebody with a different personality. Like I'm a very, 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 very bulldozer character. Like I always have been. I'm very big. I'm unstoppable, and I'm very dynamic, and I have a very high knowledge that I'm gonna fucking survive. You can take away my hands, you can take away my arms. I'm gonna survive. Like I'll figure it out. I've got that in me. I'm a fighter. But I know that
stem from your childhood, though. Did that also stem from your childhood? Was there something in you that made you that survivor?
That's my brother's got 2 kids and they're very different temperaments, but they have been from a baby. It's the only babies I know, so it's the only ones I can talk to. But they've had the same upbringing, and then one of them is milder and meeker, and the other one's like much more charismatic and not charismatic, but fearless.
Yeah,
they have been since birth. And same with me and my brother. Like we've had the same parents and everything, but we're totally different people. And that is the soul. That's who I am. I am a spiritual being. And I come with a certain character and personality that is independent of experience. I you know, you have two choices. Either you let your environment shape you or you shape your environment.
Yes, I agree with that.
Yeah, so a lot of people ask me about my environment to try and understand me, but I've always been somebody that's I control my environment. My environment doesn't control me, and that didn't come from anything other than my desire to control an environment. I don't want to be effect. I want to be cause. I don't want to be pushed around by life circumstances. I can change circumstances, and and that wasn't because I was surrounded by people who did it. My mum worked for the hospital for 40 years. My dad worked a regular job like a regular dude. Everybody I knew around me did stuff like that. So it wasn't, I didn't even know anybody to have that example from, but it was always within me. I always had this idea of like I have a concept of how life should feel, and it's not feeling like that. So this isn't right. And I'd had that since 3 years old. I was like, I shouldn't be in a village. I'm not made for this. I need to be out in the world. I want to have a business when I was 6. And my mum wouldn't let me because she thought it would bring shame to the family for me to be going around asking the neighbors to cut the grass and to wash the windows when I'm so young. So I found another way of doing a business, selling sweets at school, and I got in a lot of trouble for it. And I got kicked out
Yeah.
for it, but I was making hundreds of pounds a week selling sweets at 6 years old. And like, there's nothing wrong with that. Like, there's nothing wrong with it. But would I advise someone else? Yeah, just up and quit your job. No, because look, you do what's right for you. But what I would say is in a way which you see most appropriate, you can transition to a better life. There is
Yes.
always something that can be done about it. There's always a way to improve any situation by taking a slightly more causative attitude, by taking just bit by bit, you handle your environment. Now, I don't think that everybody should just up and quit like I did. I know it makes a great story. I know it's very dramatic as a story. It's very Hollywood, but I'm a dramatic guy and I can do that. And I know that if a different person, because I know what happens when I did that, I know how hard it is. And I know that people would fold within 2 weeks and they'd be back in the office, because what I had to go through then was the biggest test of character, and it wasn't a test of character for two weeks. It's a test of character which is still ongoing. Like, I have to withstand forces and tensions and pressures which would buckle most people. And so I don't think this is for everybody. And I don't think there's anything wrong with that, because we all have we all have I say this all the time, that we're all individuals, and we all have preferences for certain kinds of lives and for certain kind of situations. And for some people, they're going to prioritize certain things. And I don't believe I'm ever going to be in a position to sit there and tell somebody what's right for them. They know what's right for them. All I can say is, when you know what's right for you, it is possible for you to achieve it.
Yes.
And there's always a way forward to it.
I love that. That makes sense to me. Big time. If there was one song in the history of music that was the soundtrack of your life, Stephen,
Oh
what song would you choose and why would you choose that song? It's a hard question.
It's a hard question, because I know I've got like my stock answer that I say to people when they ask me what's your favorite song, but that ain't what you
No,
asked.
I want a proper deep down in your soul spiritual answer of a song that resonates with you and elevates you to a place that you have never ever said to anybody before.
No Expectations by the Rolling Stones.
That's a good one.
Yeah, it's the lyrics to that song is, take me to the station and put me on a train. I've got no expectations to pass through here again. Once I was a rich man, and now I am so poor, but never in my sweet short life have I felt like this before. So take me to the station and put me on a train. I've got no expectation to pass through here again. That would be my life. I understand everything's transient. I understand that things change. And I'm moving. I know you love me. I love you too, but I'm not staying. I'm on a journey constantly, and you can come on the train with me, but ultimately and we're gonna part ways. This body will go, and I'll go into the next body. Everything is temporary. I love my friends, but I know it's not forever. I love my mum. I know it's not forever. I know everything around me. Like, this flat's beautiful. I'm gonna leave one day, because and even within myself, my own character traits. like it's transient. I love it, but I'm looking to grow. And I know that I've got to let go of something to get the next thing. I can't hold on to one thing in one hand. My hand's not open to be able to grab the next thing.
You have to let go.
You
That's the whole
constantly,
purpose of life.
nobody ever tells you that, by the way. That's the bit. That's the bit why change is hard. Change is hard because to successfully change, you've got to lose the thing you've currently got. You've got to
Yes.
get okay with loss, knowing that you can always have again, and that when you go through that cycle very often, you actually get immaterial. You get a bit disconnected from materialism
Yeah.
on a material level. Like, I just don't care about stuff. I've got 3 Rolexes. I never even wear them. But I don't care. Take them away. I'll get another one in the future when I feel like having one. Like, I don't need to hold on to stuff because I just have it. It goes. I get some more in the future when I need it. It's everything passes. And people don't say this about relationships and things, but it doesn't make my love less sincere to know that I know my friend, for example, who was around having breakfast with me today. He wants to go live in America, and I know I'm not going to live in America, and I'm going to lose him. And my other buddies just had 2 kids, and I know we're not going to see each other as much. And I know that, and I know I'm probably going to become real famous one day because I want my work to be heard all over the world, and that comes with the side effect of having to be well known. And that will occur. I'm sitting here now with nobody knowing me, but I tell you that's going to occur 100%. It just is, because either I'll die or that'll happen, and that's going to come with some transience as well. I'm going to have to lose a lot of things to get there. When I get there, I'll have lost something and gained a new thing, and I won't hold on to fame. I'll walk away from it to move on to whatever is the next thing, and then eventually I'll leave this body and I'll lose everything, and then I'll go on to the next thing. And
Yeah.
that's what's in that song, and it's the quiet wisdom that sits underneath me, and it's the thing I've learned through a life of traveling and doing a lot of things. I've lived a lot of life for a guy my age. I've lived more life than most people live in the whole lifetime. So I feel like I've understood this point.
People always say we think a lot at nighttime.
Hmm.
What? I like the way you went when you said that. What are some of the things that you think of at nighttime that you would like to share with us? That goes through your mind and spins through your mind.
I often worry about whether I'm on the right path because I'm walking a path where I don't have anybody to look to left or right to ask, is this the right thing? I'm doing things for the first time often, or at least it feels that way. And I look around, I don't have anybody telling me if this is the right way to go or not.
Yeah.
My dad died. I wish I had a dad. I don't. And even if I had one, I won't listen to him. But, I often question whether I'm doing the right thing or not. I'll often question, like, am I wasting myself? I guess is my biggest worry that hits me in the nighttime. Can I be doing more? Am I really making the most of myself? Or am I wasting my potential here? I think about that a lot, and I sometimes do worry about the things that I'm giving up, because with every pursuit comes some sacrifice, and the sacrifice, sometimes it's a little birdie on your shoulder, and you miss it, and it is heartbreaking, I'm more committed to the thing I want to achieve than the thing I'm currently holding on to, because it's a bigger game, it's a bigger purpose, it's more important to me than my immediate survival. And if that entails a very, very, very lonely kind of suffering through the journey to get there, I'm just willing to take that. I'm willing to take it, because I'd rather suffer towards a goal I believe in than suffer to live a life I know is going nowhere, because I've done that, and it's a different kind of suffering. I don't want the suffering of waking up every day knowing there's absolutely no chance I'm going to achieve my dream because I'm doing nothing towards it. That's a different kind of pain. So either way is going to be painful. You just choose your pain, and they're the things that plague me in the nighttime.
That's interesting you would say that. I think we all go through things at nighttime. The reason why I ask that is because a lot of people don't admit that they think the most at nighttime. But for you to be able to, I'm being honest with you, but for you to be able to share that with us, I'm humbled that you took that knowledge and you shared it with, especially with people who are trying to become an artist or want to go out there and do something or believe in something and feel stagnant, because we all
Yeah,
get stagnant at some point, Stephen. We really do. And I'm
yeah, and
so,
that I'd say that again. Every concept that you're measuring yourself with is relative. Stagnant is a relative word. Stagnant relative to what? Well, not relative to a dead man. You've got more motion than a dead man.
of course.
But stagnant relative to Elon Musk, who's on YouTube all the time. Yeah, sure. Or stagnant relative to the people that you're looking at and you admire, and they just seem to be living at 200 miles an hour, and I'm stuck here and I can't even pay rent. Yeah, sure. That feels stagnant. Stagnancy is when you've got the same problems for too many months in a row. You need new problems, you know?
Yeah.
And problems aren't a bad thing. You just need new ones. It's solve that problem so you can have the next problem.
Yeah.
Solve the problem so you can have the problem of, fuck, now I've got an employee to worry about. Shit. Or and solve that problem so you can have another problem. Like, I want problems because it means I'm doing something. The only man with no problems is the man 6 feet under the ground.
Yes, that's true.
But I want to have problems that are worthwhile having. And so I want to go into new things. I want to expand into new things. And that does come with problems. There's no point pretending it doesn't. Jeff Bezos has problems, trust me, because he'll have politicians ringing him up and he'll have the whole fucking world hating him. And then, they're problems. Well, I want his problems, like.
You sure? You sure you want his
No,
problems?
I'm sure I don't want his problems because that's not interesting to me. If I was interested in doing that kind of thing, I'd run a company.
That's
The
true.
kind of problems I want to get is like, how am I going to fill a stadium? How am I going to get people to hear this song? How am I going to make this song better? How am I going to get my voice better so I can actually deliver this song in a way which I think is good enough? How am I going to learn guitar in a year's period so I can get guitar on this track played how I want it played? Like, they're my problems, but I like those problems. It's not a bad thing. Like, you just need to keep working out your problems so you can have new ones rather than
Persistence.
holding on to your problems. Because if the reason people have problems for too long is because they don't believe they can make new ones,
Yeah.
so they stay with their problems because nothing is more scary than a life with no problems. You kill yourself after 2 weeks.
That's a fair point.
Yeah, because what's the reason to wake up? What are you going to do today? Oh, I'm just going to go down to the beach again and have a pina colada
Oh,
like we did
come
the
on.
last week and the last week and the last week.
No, I can't do that. I couldn't live life like that. That's not what I was built to do, and that's not my journey in life. So I personally, no, that's not me. That's not me at all.
No, me neither.
What would you do differently if there was no judgment in the world? We are constantly getting judged, constantly, but there's a positive and a negative within this. And I'm a very optimistic person, so it doesn't matter what comes in my way. I always look at the positive side of things. I even forget the negative most of the time. But for
Yeah,
you, if there was no judgment in the world, what would you do differently being you?
I would never have gone to school. I would have learnt basic maths and English, and then that would have been it. I'd have left school at 11 years old. I was ready. I knew I was ready because I just wanted to. I want to actually live in the world, not just convince people I'm smart because I remembered enough useless things to get an A in a subject I don't give a fuck about. I learn more now about science because I'm interested in it. So I'll sit on YouTube and I'll watch a bunch of stuff about physics. I didn't pay attention at school because I didn't want to learn physics at that point. Well, I've now reached a point in my life, I'm like, you know what? How does the universe work? And I'll sit and I'll literally watch the things that they were trying to teach me when I was 13 and didn't give a shit. Because when I was 13, I want to go out into the world and figure out how do I make enough money to buy my own Xbox games so I don't need to go to my dad and be told no. Like, how do I make enough money to not have to go to my parents for permission to take a piss? Like, that's what I was interested in at 13. Well, now I'm interested in different things. How do they build a building so tall? I've moved into a really tall building. I'm like, I wonder how they build buildings like that. So I watch a whole documentary on it and I get a bit of an engineering education, the level of which I want. Now I might get really interested in engineering, decide I want to go build a building, and then I'll go study engineering. But I wasted so much life in education just trying to prove to other people that I was prestigious or that I'm smart or that I'm this. University was a waste of time. Senior school was a waste of time. I wasted 15 years of my life. That's half my life in education. And I know if I'd have hit the ground running doing what I'm doing, I'd be where I am now at 18.
Yeah.
And I don't have time. We do, I can make time, but this piece of steak, which I'm driving around, which I call a body, It lasts a certain amount of time. It's
That's
got a
true.
shelf life.
Hmm.
And I wasted some of it. So that's one thing I would definitely change. Um, that's not me dumping on education. I actually think education is the most important thing. I just think it should be voluntary. I think you should pick those things that you want to be doing. I run a school, right? I have an online school, but I'm not forcing people to attend it when they
Yeah.
want to do other things. I'm just saying, hey, if you want to be an artist, if you want to learn music, if you want to learn to sing, I got you. This is where you come to get that. And if you're not interested, then don't come here. It's that simple. And um, so that's one thing I would definitely change. The second thing I would, people pretend, I've got no regrets. It made me who I am today. That's such baloney.
Mm.
I've got regrets. Like, I would have wasted less time with girls I knew I didn't want to be with long term,
Fair
because
enough.
I broke my own heart too many times. And then my whole life shuts down because I'm brokenhearted for a period of time. And then I'm careless with the hearts of others. For what? To get laid? To feel like a big man because I slept with a girl who's hotter than me? Like, for what was all that worth? I cheapened myself. I lost all self-respect, and I wasted the time and emotion of somebody else. I was very, very, I wasn't good on that area. I've been, I don't know how to put it, but I regret that. I
Pull it
do.
how it comes into your heart, because your heart never lies.
Well, the answer is I just sold myself cheap, and exactly, I couldn't put it any more accurate than the way I've put it. I degraded myself by knowing what I want and then getting something else.
Hmm.
I know the kind of love I want to have, and I'll settle for something that's just a shadow of it. I want the real deal, but what I'm doing is just mocking it up and pretending I've got the real deal, even though I haven't, for 2 nights, just to have a romantic affair with some chick in whatever city that I'm in. But I know it's not going to last, and I know that I don't really like who you are, and I don't really like that you're doing drugs in the corner, because I'm not about that. And you know, we both know that we're not what we really want, but we're both so lonely that this will do for now. And what a fucking degrading thing that we do to ourselves. That's so cheap. It's so, disposable love. That's what I wasted my time with. And
That's
when
a
I
good
look at
title,
that,
actually.
yeah, when I look at the effect it created in me, it made me give up on love for the longest time. It made me just feel so disconnect and
Yeah.
so romantically lonely. But I did that to myself. I did that to myself through my own actions, through disrespecting love, through disrespecting how good romance and intimacy can be, by cheapening it, by using it in a bad way. And I regret that, because I'd have probably been married. I wanted to get married to my first girlfriend. Her name's Nathalia
Oh.
Marquez. Shout out. I was 14. I was ready to get married. I thought she was the prettiest thing I'd ever seen in my life. I loved her from the moment I saw her. I was
Oh.
Honestly, she was the most beautiful thing I'd ever seen. We were at a family barbecue, and she walked in this flower satin dress, and she had an ass. I never seen an ass. Oh my God. I was like, oh, she had boobs and an ass, and she's Brazilian. She was just so beautiful to me. This big, big smile. And she came over. She was just so innocent, that 14-year-old girl innocence. I'm a 14-year-old boy innocence. And then we kissed, and, I'm fucking 10 feet tall. And
Dude.
yeah, literally, like everything grew, and I just inflated in all directions, and
Dude.
I was ready. I was like, I'm in. Like, I'm gonna find you a ring. Let's do this. Let's fucking do this.
Oh,
And
man.
what did I do? I got invalidated by my environment. I got invalidated by notions like, you don't know what food you like till you've eaten a lot of food. You don't want to settle down too young. A man needs to sow his seed a little. It's good to be a player. It's good to be a bit. All that stuff polluted me. And then I've come back round now. It's 15 years later. I've come back round, and I'm romantically less than I was when I was at that point. Now I'm looking to feel how I felt when I was 14. I'm looking for something I've already had and thrown away. And all I did in that meandering time, and the countless women of, you know, all I've done is just cheapen and cheapen and cheapen and darken and beaten and bruise my heart. And I had to mend that. I had to do the hard work of fixing that and getting myself out of that hole that I put myself in, to finally bring myself to a place now where I'm just clean enough and just like pure enough
Yeah.
to be ready again. And I might never have got there. I might never have come back to this place. I'm lucky that I kind of caught it and I got on top of it. But, you know, I regret that. It's just a waste of time again. It's a waste of time I don't have. It's a waste of heart and love. I was ready to give everything at 14. I didn't need invalidating. I didn't need my mom telling me, you're too young to settle down. I didn't need my dad telling me, oh, is she your girlfriend? Great. When's your next one? Like, I don't need that. I didn't need their worries. I didn't need their expectations, their standards of
You
when's
just
too young.
needed your own.
Yeah, I was ready. I was ready to leave home at 11 and start working, and I was ready to get married at 14. And I probably fucking should have, because that's me, and everybody's different, but that was me. I was ready to fucking get going. And then I stopped myself by the standards of other people. I stopped myself with, well, I'm just a child. I wasn't. I was fucking ready. I was ready. I had everything I needed. And now I'm an adult. I know that, because I look back, I'm like, dude, you were set up. Go get stuck in, get a job, feel what it's like. Oh, I don't like that job. Quit, get another one. Right. You don't like jobs. So now you start your own business. Cool. All right. Like I'd have figured things out like I figured things out anyway.
Do you guys still speak now?
Who?
Your girlfriend that you wanted when you was 14, well, your wife to be when you was 14.
No, I broke up with her. She got with a guy called Callum and they got married. And they got 2 kids, I think. And beautiful for them. Like, it's not even that, like, I don't sit here now thinking she was the one. Look, we're not aligned in any way. Like, when I look at what I want to achieve in my life, she wanted the little life in the village and 2 kids and a car. That was her thing. I don't want that at all. I don't even want a house. I don't give a shit. I want to keep moving. I'm married to my purpose, not to things.
Yeah, I
So
love
we might
that.
have actually not got along at all. As time went on, we might have learned that we're actually not a good relationship at all. But I would have liked to have learned that because of those things, not because of somebody else's ideas. I'd have liked to have been because we realize that we're going down different paths in life and we have different goals and aspirations, rather than because I've taken on all these ideas that aren't mine and now that's pushed us apart because of somebody else's fucking concepts.
What are you most proud of that you stand for as an individual?
Help. I'm proud that I make people better. Every single person around me, whether they're my employee, whether they're my friend, whether it's somebody who meets me for 5 minutes, they say the same thing: "You made me better." And I say that with I'm looking you dead in the eye when I say it. I make you better, and that doesn't mean that I'm God. It doesn't mean I'm so much better than you. It means I'm a good person. I go around and have a positive effect on those around me, and I make sure to do so. I do it even when I'm feeling shitty. I do it when I'm having a bad day. I
Yeah,
don't take it out on my environment, because the funny thing is when you're that kind of person, when you do have a bad day, there's 10 people around you who are ready to pick you up.
it's
You know,
true.
I went on my Instagram the other day. This is probably about 5 days ago now. And I did a really honest Instagram live where I was just like, guys, I'm lonely. Like, COVID's really getting to me. I can't do any of the things I like. And I'm lonely. And the immediate response that these people gave me, it just feels like my tribe came around me to lift me back up and were like, Stephen, we love you. And I really felt and meant it. It wasn't just fandom. It was like real care from people that I've invested in helping through that platform come around. And when I need it, they lift me up again. And I'm like, I created that, but then they created it too. And
Exactly.
that's what a relationship is. So I'm most proud of that. I'm most proud in the effect I create in others.
Talk to me about your music now, because we've spoken about so many other things, but we
Yeah.
haven't had a chance to speak about your music properly. Talk to me
Yeah.
about your writing, the
Yeah.
way you play the piano, the way you feel when you play the piano. Talk to me about what you want to achieve as an artist when it
Yeah.
comes to you playing and just being you.
Yeah. I'm so what's really crazy to me is that all of this motion and like all of the following, and I've been around the world and I played with my heroes. I played with Sting, I played with Robbie Williams, I played with all the people I looked up to growing up. I played in maybe 80 countries. I've played for world leaders and presidents. I've played in the most glamorous parties you'll never ever hear about. And I've not even released a single yet. How crazy is that? I've not even released properly. Go on Spotify, like my music's not there yet. And I'm going to be really honest. That was my biggest fear. Can you believe that? My biggest fear, despite the fact I do music and I go around the world performing, my biggest fear was recording recorded original music. And the reason for that is because it means so much to me that the idea of it being publicly rejected, it was a suffocating thing for me to deal with. By the time I was 18, I'd written over 1,000 songs. I'm probably sitting on now maybe 5,000, 6,000 songs. I write songs in the morning, in the nighttime. It's all I do. And people will be surprised because they can't find them anywhere. And I was paralyzed to share it. And the other thing that I had is that I'm only interested in making the best music on the planet, because I respect music so much that I want to make the kind of work that sits as a peer, not a beggar, to what I believe is the best music in the world. And that requires, the best music in the world was made with big labels, with big budgets. I don't want to go to a big label because I don't want to be told to sing about alcohol and bitches. I don't want to be told that I've got to be the nation's boyfriend to make it. I don't want to be told that I've got to dance and dick thrust. I don't want to do any of the things which are required of a pop star. I'm utterly uninterested in it. And so I've taken a much longer road, which has never been walked before, which is why it's exciting to me, where I am going to become a global artist completely independently, completely, no label. And I'm going to do it. It's never been done before. An independent artist has never achieved a gold record. I will do that. I will do that. Not a fake independent artist, like telling everybody I'm independent, but I've really got a massive infrastructure behind me. They just haven't called it a record label. I'm not going to say any specific names, but the biggest artist that people think is independent is that. And not somebody who's come from a label with 21 people writing their songs and their image was made in a boardroom because it was surveyed. This is what would create the biggest reaction in children. And I'm not going to do WAP. I'm not going to do Wet Ass Pussy song. I'm not going to do Anaconda song. I'm not going to sing My Dick So Big song. I'm not going to create that effect in the world. I'm not going to degrade music and degrade a culture by putting out art that's impure. I'm going to put out the greatest music. And I can say this with certainty because I'm right at the tail end of making the album. I'm sitting on about 18 tracks at the minute, and I'm just whittling it down into about 10 that I like, which I'm going to release one at a time in a careful way, in a way which I feel is respecting the music. I want each video to be an experience. It's an experience like my shows are, because I've made my living from shows so far. And it's a crazy thing to me. That whole following comes because they've seen me live.
Yeah.
And my live shows it's church. Go speak to anybody who's been to my live show. It is not a concert. It is, you go on a journey and you're not the same ever again for the rest of your life. Me neither, by the way. I permanently change every show. I don't plan it. I don't go on there with a plan. I don't go on there like, I'm going to do this song, move this way. It's not like that. I go on and I look at the room. I feel what everyone's feeling. I'm in Lithuania and in the daytime, I'm driving around. I'm looking at the buildings they live in. I'm looking at the way they live their life. They're my group. Just because I've never been there, we're part of the same team. We're humanity. And I'm looking at what they're going through, and then I tell their stories. I hold a mirror up to them so they can see themselves and learn something about themselves. Because it's not about me. As soon as I go on that stage, it's not about me anymore. I'm here to put beauty in your life. I'm here to take you on a journey where you're going to really go deep. And that's what I've done in the performances. Doing it in a recorded fashion where I can't see the audience, where it's so much more about me, where it's so much more introverting, has been the biggest challenge of my life. It's been the hardest thing I've ever had to do in my life. But luckily, COVID came. I lost all of my shows. I lost all of my income. It was very scary. And I have two choices. Do I buckle down and give up and go get an office job? Or do I lean into my purpose harder than I've ever done it? Do I risk everything and put the money that's left on the line? And I did that. When COVID hit, I took on the biggest expenses I've ever taken on. I took a studio full time. I've got my own recording studio full time. I full time hire people to work for me just to facilitate my creative process in that studio.
Yeah.
I spent well over 200,000 on making my own album so far this year. I'll spend another 200,000 finishing it, and I'll probably have to spend $1 million marketing it myself. Who knows where that money's going to come from, but I'll find it because it matters to me. And if I can't find it, I'll find another way.
Yeah.
But the quality won't be reduced. And so that's me. That's my music. That's what's coming. It's amazing for me to do this podcast because I'm going to sit here and I'm interested to watch this in 3 or 4 years because I'm convinced my work's going to have gone places by then. I'm convinced that these songs which I'm writing right now, they're the songs that people are going to play. I've got one song that's written about a situation I'm going through personally with my mum. I believe it's anybody who's going through death. It's the song, because I couldn't find one. When my mum was dying, I was looking for one, and I love music, and there wasn't one that did it the way this song does it. It's that song is not from me. I just was a channel. It came from somewhere, and I had to go there to find out. And my mum's my best friend on this planet. It's cutting me. It's killing me. What's going on right now? And it's fucking wrenching me. Honestly, it's the worst thing I've gone through in my life. And I've just found a way to put that musically, and that one song was the only bit of therapy I found for myself.
Yeah.
And I've played it to just 11 people. I've invited them around, and 11 out of 11 people have cried, not because they're losing someone, because they've been through that emotion themselves. And I'm like, cool, this album's going to do something. And I'm excited to release it. It's coming in 2021. It's going to come bit by bit. And then I'm working on so many more songs. And the thing I'm going to push myself to do in 2021 is just start releasing things. Because if I've managed to make all of this motion on nothing, not even one single released.
Exactly, yeah.
Imagine what's going to happen when I start doing that. I put one original song on YouTube called Would You Mind?
Yeah.
Yeah. And every concert I do, people sing along with it, and people making videos of it, they're making their own cover versions of it. I'm like, that's wild to me. That's crazy that someone will make a cover of my song. And honestly, I feel like it's not even a good one, because I only put it out because it felt safe, because I was like, well, at least it's not one of my good ones, my precious ones. So I'm, yeah, sorry I talk too much. I ramble.
I love it. No, because you express who you are. The whole point of, see, this is what I mean. The whole point of the podcast is for people to be their authentic selves. I don't want people to cage themselves in. I want people to just be who you are meant to be in life. And that's it. I love the hair. See, no one else can see it, but I can. That's super cool. I love it. He took off his hat, guys.
It's wild under here.
It's like, woof.
I cut my hair in about 4 months. This is what happened.
No, it's all right. Listen, everything is a blessing in disguise. You don't know what you could do with that hair. See?
Yeah, I could store animals in here.
Stop it. What's the best advice you have ever received from somebody, and how has that helped you?
Wow, your questions are magnificent, I've got to say. They really show the curiosity which you have towards life. The best advice. Now, it's funny because I'm writing a book right now, and I've been writing it on aeroplane rides, and it's people I'm sat next to on aeroplanes. Because of my job, I take a lot of aeroplane rides, and I started talking to the person next to me because the in-flight entertainment's so boring after a while, and people are interesting. And I'm like, I remember one time I'm like watching a documentary about people, and I'm like, but there's a people right next to me. Why don't I talk to that person? And the danger of when you start talking to someone on a plane is, yeah, but we've got like fucking 12 hours here, and what if I don't want to talk to you because you're an arsehole? And so I always start the conversation with, listen, I know we just sat down, there's no pressure here. If we don't like each other, this don't have to go anywhere, but this is a pretty long road, and there's an opportunity to, maybe we might be friends. Imagine being friends on an airplane. Like, I can always have another friend. And I think because I started from that perspective, it's very rare that I've got somebody next to me that there's not something about them that's interesting. And I've got some of my best advice off people on a plane. One of the best pieces of advice I think I've ever received, I'm trying to think where this came from, because I'd love to credit it to the correct person. Well, I can't remember it, but it was a fairly overweight dude. And I was flying into Nashville from Moscow. So
cool.
Whoever you are, dude, you know who you are. And I was talking to him, and he sold luxury watches to rich people. And he was flying there to sell this one watch to a dude. Very interesting guy. And then he'd worked for Sotheby's as an auctioneer. I thought, that's so cool. And he'd sold artwork for millions of dollars and all this kind of things. Like, wow, what a fucking weird job you've got. He was a peculiar guy, knew a lot about things that don't really matter. awful lot of information about Raffaello's 15th movement. Like, cool, all right, but you can tell he doesn't know how to fix a carburetor, or he can't make eggs, but he knows everything about like where Michelangelo grew up. It's like one of those guys who's really smart on topics that don't matter. And he gave me a tremendous piece of advice, and he said, he spent his. I was interested because I through my job I've managed to know personally some of the richest people on the planet because I played shows for them, and then I'm there as a friend, not as a businessman. So I often meet who they truly are, not the public persona.
Yeah.
And I felt like through his job, he probably experienced the same, and that is quite a rare perspective. And I'd said to him, what had he learned from spending a lifetime serving these kinds of people on such a personal level? And he's like, the thing I've really, really learned is that there is a big difference between comfort and happiness.
Yes.
And it reminded me of something I'd read when I was a kid in the Bhagavad Gita. I used to go to India a lot. And the book over there that they have is a Veda. And in the Veda, these are books 7,000 years old. They predate all of the wisdom that we think is modern. Some of these books are old as gets. And there's a book called the Bhagavad Gita. And there's a specific translation of that book by a certain Swami. I can't remember his name off the top of my head, but it's a very good English translation. And it talked about a man who gave up. He was a rich man, and he didn't like his wife, and he didn't like his job, and he didn't like his kids, and everything was bothering him. And he'd walk to work every day and see a man under a tree. I think his name was Ayurvad. And he'd see a man under a tree, and he had nothing. And if you gave him food, he just left it there for the dogs. He needed nothing, and he sat there in total serenity. And eventually this man, so frustrated that he's working so hard for a life he doesn't want, gives up his job, and he quits the family, and he leaves the kids. And he goes and sits next to this man under the tree, under the bamban tree. And he takes off his clothes, and it's just him and a towel, and he sits there, and somebody comes to give him food, and he leaves it for the dogs. And after about 5 minutes, the sun's burning on his shoulders, and he's still thinking about all his worries, and he's still thinking about all the reasons he doesn't like in his life. And the moral of the story, it says in this book that's been around for thousands of years, says a thing which we've still not learned. And it's this, that before he was comfortable and unhappy, and now he's uncomfortable and unhappy. And there's a big difference, and that the happiness of the man on the floor did not come from the fact that he had nothing. He could have also been a billionaire. They're just disrelated. And it's the best piece of advice that I've learned, because it's always reminded me, those things you're chasing, those things that you feel like you're not good enough because you don't have, they won't fix the hole in the boat, because they're nothing to do with it. The hole in the boat comes from self-love, and self-love comes from behaving in a way you find lovable, and that's accessible at any point. And it's also inaccessible at any point. You can have $1 billion and still be behaving like an asshole, and you won't love yourself. You'll still feel that darkness. Or you can be living on the streets, and you spend all day just going around cleaning windows for people and just doing your best to be a positive light in this world, and you fucking love yourself, and you'll look like the Buddha walking around barefoot. Now people will see your physical aspects, and they'll try and copy the physical things. Oh, I'm going to sell my shoes. I'm going to look like a hobo. Yeah, but it wasn't the shoes, and it wasn't the clothing that produced that serenity in him. And equally, you can look at these celebrities you see on TV, and people might look at me and they might think, wow, if only I had that suit or that stupid watch, then maybe I'd be happy like Stephen. But I'm telling you, everything good that I feel doesn't come from any of that. And it doesn't even come from music. Though I love music and it's a privilege to do it as a job, it comes from the fact that I use music to make the world better.
Yes.
It comes from the fact that I dedicate myself to others, and therefore I find that admirable. Because I find that admirable, I admire myself. And I cannot, nothing, I'm invincible when that occurs. And that, to me, it's the best advice I could give anybody. The best advice I could give to anybody who is listening to this today is just list down the qualities that you think, not that you've learned from YouTube, not because I said them today, by your own personal measures. What is it to you that represents greatness? What is it to you that you just admire? Because it won't be money. You don't admire the rich guy. You don't admire that. You probably admire the fact that he didn't settle down and do what everybody else did, that he made his own way. There'll be some quality of that. Well, cool. Well, then it's that quality that you admire. It's not measured in dollars. It's not measured in private jets. It's measured in having the personal fortitude to walk your own path. That's what you admire. And when you start doing that, even if it's a totally different path, maybe it's working for a charity, maybe it's working with your family, maybe it's even working within a job, but just a job that is more aligned to what you want to do. Well, guess what? You're going to feel fucking invincible. And that's what I wanted to say. Everybody's looking in the wrong way. They're looking at what jobs do you do? What rituals do you do? What do you do when you wake up? People ask me stupid questions. What's the first thing that you do when you wake up in the morning? It doesn't fucking matter because it's got nothing to do with the things you want to feel that I feel. It's got nothing to do with that stuff. Why are you asking about it? Why are you asking what perfume I wear? Why are you asking what fucking time I wake up and what diet I'm on? It's got no irrelevance. I change my diet all the time. I get fat, I get thin. I'm still fucking with it. I don't know what I'm doing in that front. Like, why are you asking me these stupid fucking questions? You know, what the fuck? It's got nothing to do with anything. It's so trivial.
It's so true.
You don't understand the source of where all the important stuff comes from. And I'm not saying that in any malice. I'm not saying it. I'm not trying to make you feel stupid. I'm just saying the world's looking in the wrong direction because all of advertising and all of culture and all the movies and all the music and all of everybody is looking at the shiny object in the corner, and they're just forgetting what this is all about. And I ask anybody in an airplane, I ask them the same question. What is it that you want from life? And everybody says the same thing, happiness. Everybody says the same thing.
Happiness.
And I'm like, so then what are you doing? What are you doing? Look at where your focus is. Because your focus isn't on things which produce happiness. Your focus is on things which produce money, or your focus is on things which produce prestige. And they will give you prestige and they will give you money, and you won't be happy. And you know why? Because it's got nothing to do with that. Happiness comes from doing things. Like it comes from a form of self-love and self-acceptance that doesn't come from mantras, and it doesn't come from meditation, and it doesn't come from saying, I accept myself. I accept myself. You don't have to accept yourself. You can change yourself. You don't have to accept who you are, because you can change who you are, and you can improve who you are, and you can become somebody that it doesn't take effort to accept. It doesn't take effort to admire. It occurs naturally. There are friends in my life. It didn't take me effort to admire them. I naturally admire them because I find it amazing, this aspect of them. My mother is kind, even when the people don't deserve it.
True.
That blows me away. It blows me away. I don't need effort to appreciate that kindness. So when I start behaving in that way, when I'm having a shitty day and I just smile and make it about the other person, oh my God, I like the effortlessness with which I love myself makes me chuckle. And it doesn't matter. I've been in circumstances, I've had money, I've not had money, I've had success, I've not had success. I have tough times, not tough times. This year has been a phenomenally tough time for me on all fronts, personal, professional, financial. It's been so tough. And this next year is probably going to be tough too. I can't do shows. I can't do the one thing that makes me feel alive on this planet. I can't see my friends, even the little things. It's a game of, I've been cut down inch by inch. I can't go to the gym. I can't get a coffee. I've got a fucking curfew like I'm a dog. Like, this is ridiculous. I'm challenged on every single front of my life is telling me, you can't survive. You can't survive. And it's for your own good. I'm like, fuck you. You're not my daddy. Fuck you.
What do they know is for your own good? I know there's a virus. I know that there is a virus going on.
I know there's a virus. I know that too. But if I have an illness, for example, my mum is very ill. Let's just say I was to have cancer. I don't understand why, my mum has no immune system right now because of a treatment she's going through. And I don't like to publicly talk about my family too much. It's personal, but she's going through something where she has no immune system. Well, she has to self-isolate with or without COVID, because there's thousands of things that can kill somebody in that situation. And it's not just COVID. There are things much more deadly that could kill her from basic human interaction. So she's going to have to self-isolate. There are conditions that we go through in our life where we have to isolate. And that's unfortunately part of the nature of that illness, or the nature of that period of your life and that age in your life where you've got to be a bit more careful. But we don't, even my mum said this. She was like, I can't go to the restaurant anymore because there's just so many things that could harm me in the restaurant. But we don't close the restaurant because she's vulnerable. We don't burn the world down to save the 3% that is exposed to it. Ultimately, we have a virus with a 99.97% survival rate. That's just the answer. You can say anything else, but that's the stable datum. Even in the vulnerable category, it's a 99.5% survival rate. That's just the reality. And so all this other stuff, all this confusion, I think about the man in the street. I think about the dude who's living in a village, like where I come from. How are they doing? I look at the streets barren and empty. I look at office blocks barren and empty. I look at people denied of their right to work, their right to contribute to this planet. I look at people with divorce going through the roof because people are on top of each other and they're not getting to work, and so they're going cuckoo. I'm thinking about loneliness worldwide. I'm thinking about that's what I'm thinking about. I'm looking at my fellow man. I'm looking at the people around me, and I don't like what I see because I care that they're doing well. I want people to be doing well, and I'm not disparaging the virus. I'm not saying we shouldn't care. I think we should, but I think there's a responsibility. If I'm a vulnerable person, then obviously I'm going to have to take a greater care of myself. And in those that are not vulnerable, you might get the illness that might occur. I've had COVID twice. It's not pleasant, but I don't want the world to shut down because of it. I don't want to see every business. I don't want to see global shutdown. It saddens me. That crushes me, because it's not right. The cure is worse than the disease.
Yeah. I'm glad you said that. I am so glad you said that because you've been one of the most honest people when it comes to talking about it.
Yeah. I'll be one of the most honest people when I talk about it. I get in trouble for my honesty.
There's nothing wrong with being honest. I think honesty gets us all in trouble. Me being positive gets me in trouble, believe it or not.
You choose your fight. You're going to get attacked either way. Look, going to the gym's hard and being fat's hard. So choose which one you want.
I like the way you put that into perspective.
Yeah. Being honest is hard, but also living a lie is hard. So choose your hard.
I would prefer the honesty one. That's just my fight. That's my fight.
I'm with you. And honesty doesn't need to hurt anybody. You don't need to offend somebody by being honest. I'm not here to try and poo-poo the other side. We're together in this. We're very together. This is something we're all going through. I want everybody. It's not about me versus you. It's not about one side versus the other. I'm not trying to be political. I just want my world to do well. I want people to do well. I don't care about your affiliations and your politics and your color and your gender and what. It's so irrelevant to me. People focus on these divisions. I don't care. I just don't care because I do care. Like I give a shit that you're doing well. I give a shit that you're doing well in life, that you're contributing something that, cool, you're gay, you're not gay, you're this, you're that. It doesn't matter, dude. Like, are you fulfilled? Are you happy? Are you going in the right way? Are you doing well? Is everything cool? And if you're not doing good, I'm not doing good because you're part of my team and I'm as strong as the weakest member. So if you're not right, I'm not right. And that's not just a statement. I don't want to walk down the street and see people suffering and I'm doing good. That ain't good for me. That isn't good. I don't want to live in that world. I don't want to live in a world where I see suffering. I want to live in a world where I see smiling. I want to live in a world where I see happy people. I want to see in a world where, we contribute and we help the man up when he's on his knees, and help not just by giving him things, because that doesn't help him. There's a reason he's on his knees. He gave up on his life. He gave up on himself. Now he doesn't work. He doesn't do anything. He doesn't look after himself. The answer is not just to shower him in gifts. The answer is to help him get back so he can walk his own shoes. A man doesn't want to be carried. A woman doesn't want to be carried. She wants to be able to walk by herself.
That's true.
She don't want to be given bread. She wants to know, how do I produce bread for myself so I don't need daddy to come along and give me bread so I can get bread whenever I want it.
Yeah.
Like, that's what people want. They don't want handouts. They want to survive. They want to do well. And that's what I want for everybody. And I don't care black, white, yellow. I don't care young, old. I don't care, Russian or Greek look, we're one humanity on a tiny little floating rock in the middle of a vast nothingness.
For a short time.
And we are all we've got. So I don't care what China's doing this and America's doing. Look, fuck all that. You're focusing on the wrong thing yet again. Too much focus in the wrong direction. Doesn't matter, dude. It doesn't matter. Of course, China's going to be a superpower. It's got a third of the planet.
Exactly.
It should be a superpower. It should be the richest country on the planet. Like, oh, but they don't do democracy and they don't. Look, the human beings, we're all human beings. And yeah, look, nobody's perfect, but by focusing on what's not right, you get more of what's not right. People dig in,
Yes.
you get conflict. Why don't we focus on what is right? Why don't we focus on the beauty of Chinese culture, on the strength that they have in their family unit, on the fact that, that they're such a well formed group, that they naturally work on Quanzhou, which means business based on favors rather than just personal interest all the time. Why don't we focus on, like, there's so much, the technology and the technological advance, and their ability to innovate. Like, why can't we just celebrate the good, and then let's share that, rather than everything's a competition, everything's a division, it's them versus us. If they win, then we won't win. If they survive, then we won't survive. What are you talking about, dude? We are going to make it or not make it as a planet. We're going to make it or not make it as a people, but we'll only do that when we start thinking as a people. We've got to think we've got to think a lot bigger than I'm English and you're not. We've got to think a lot bigger than I'm black and you're not. I'm white and you're not. I'm woman, you're not. We've got to think a lot bigger than sticking up for the women, sticking up for the men, sticking up for the British, sticking up for the Europeans. We've got to think a lot bigger than Brexit. We've got to think a lot bigger than all of this narrative, which is fed us. And it might be entertaining, and it might sell social media channels, and it might sell news channels, and it might sell great TV and newspapers. But what it doesn't sell is a solution. What it doesn't sell is happiness. What it doesn't sell is a planet that I want to live on, that you want to live on, that we can share and feel good and feel free. And that's what I want. And that's what I'm going to dedicate my life to promoting, and using my music to inspire people towards, and to build a brand through my music that totally represents that. That's what I stand for. That's what everybody who is under me stands for. That's what everybody who's following me stands for. My community on Instagram is so not about the music. It's so about everything else. And then the music is just the soundtrack. It's our anthems. Those songs are our anthems. But the thing that we are singing is songs of hope. It's songs of a better tomorrow.
Yes.
And that's who I am as a musician. It's who I am as a person. And it's what I'm here. I'm going to be dedicating my life to it. I'll be old and bald, and I'll still be doing the same thing.
I love that. I will still be doing a podcast on you even back then.
I'll be out here. Let's do it every other year.
Yeah, that'd be cool. You hear that, guys? At least every other year, we'll have Stephen on. So that's a good thing there. So, Stephen, talk to me about, when was the last time you felt at peace with yourself? Because it's nice to know when people feel at peace with themselves.
This morning.
Hey, I love that. It's a simple answer.
Yeah. I woke up and I took a shower, and I just felt the water on my head. My friend was coming over to make brunch with me. I knew we were going to have this conversation. When this conversation's over, I'm having a meeting with somebody who works for me, and we're going to be talking about how we're going to schedule things for the first quarter to try and get something done.
Yeah.
And I was just like, I'm living a life of my design. And I feel really fortunate. Everything's not where I want it to be, but I'm really on the way. This really is the journey.
Oh, you are there. You're getting there.
Yeah, well, no, it's not for you to say, and I don't mean that disrespectfully.
Oh, I know, I understand.
It's my own perspective. By my own measure, I've got a long way to go, but I'm walking the walk, and this is part of it. And I'm here, and I'm today. I'm in my body. Touch wood, everything's going good physically. I actually have a couple, whatever on that front, but there's always a couple of physical things going on. I'm constantly repairing myself because I like pushing myself too far. But I'm there. I feel the water on my head. I'm like, the water's on my head. I'm about to have a beautiful day, and I felt at peace. That's just how it was. I watched the water running down my balls, and I thought that looks cool. And then on my day.
If there was one quote that you could choose to represent who you are, what quote would you choose, and why would you choose that quote? His brain's ticking.
Yeah, there is an ancient Chinese quote. It says, "The best time to plant a tree was 20 years ago. The second best time to plant a tree is today." And I think just from what we've been talking about today, that would probably be my favorite quote right now. It will change in an hour's time. I have so many quotes bobbing around my head, but right now, for how I'm feeling, for for the direction that this conversation has gone in, that feels like the most appropriate favorite quote.
I like that. What
Yeah.
would you like your legacy to be?
That I burned a very, very bright light and that it rippled a long time after I'm here shining it. I want to represent what a human being can be, the good that a human can do, and it's not going to be measured because I can't fix all the problems in the world, but I have the intention of making the world a better place, and I dedicate myself to doing that very publicly. I dedicate myself to just living my life and let that life be an example that anybody else can follow. Whatever your aspirations, you're going to be an engineer, you're going to be a school teacher, you're going to be a nurse, you can do it in the same way. You can do it with that same purpose of just making your environment better,
Mm-hmm.
and that you use your skills and you use what you're doing in the world to just make it better. And that collectively, when we do that, this becomes a much kinder, a more beautiful place to be and live.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the legacy I want to put here. I want to also leave people with the knowingness that they're not just a body, that they're so much more than the physical confinement. They're more than the piece of meat. They're more than this. If I cut off my fingers, I'm not less me. You cut my hair, I'm not less me. You change my physical appearance, you I'm not this body. And I want to leave that within people, but I'm not going to leave it by telling them. I'm going to leave it in the feelings that they feel, particularly in my live shows and particularly in my musical interactions, where they realize the things that they're feeling are not physical, that the journey they're going on is so much deeper than that, that the emotions they're feeling, the things that they're feeling are so much bigger than time and space and matter and energy. It's not of this universe. It's not of the material universe. You're feeling something very eternal. And when you're feeling that, you'll be feeling it long after I'm gone, but it's still coming from me. And I'll be somewhere else and I'll be doing the same thing because everywhere I go, I just want to make it better because that's what an artist does. That is the mindset of an artist. And you don't have to be painting pictures or writing songs to be an artist. You can be an artist if you work in a bakery. You can be an artist if you're selling clothes. You can be an artist. You can always bring that attitude of improving my environment around me, of using my creativity to make this something that's going to make the little world around me better. And you know what? If you've got the aspiration, then you just do that on as big a scale as you can do it. How many people could I do this for? And I tell you another thing, you'll never worry about money. When you do
Yeah,
that, you'll never worry about your bills. You'll never worry about your hair. You'll never worry about the fact that one nipple goes up and one goes down. Those things won't matter too much to you.
that's true.
They won't matter. And nobody will look at it because they'll be so blown away by the light that shines through. They won't be looking at your body. They'll be looking at the light that blinds them that shines through. And that's what makes people beautiful. And magazines can't work it out. And insecure girls, when they're 15, are looking at the physical attributes of these people that everybody finds beautiful. But more often than not, those people are beautiful because of the light that shines through them.
Yeah,
And people might copy their physical characteristics, but it isn't that made them beautiful. It isn't that. It's not that. There's a kindness, people say, men age better. No, it's not necessarily that. It's just that certain men have a kindness and a beautiful light, and then you don't care about their wrinkly old body. And because certain women age that way too. There are certain women. Tina Fey to me is just such a babe. I just think she's so hot, and you know, it's because of the light that shines through her. She's funny. She just wants to make people laugh. She's so of service in her work. I'm like, God, you're hot. You're just so beautiful. I'd love to be around you. And
see,
yeah,
I love that. You know what? That is such a nice way to actually end the podcast as well.
yeah,
So I got one more for you, and that's just to ask you. I've been humble and blessed to have you on the show today. But just for anybody else who would like to get in contact with you or even just find out where you are on all your social medias, where can they actually find you, Stephen?
yeah. It's Instagram, Stephen with a PH, Ridley like Ridley Scott, Stephen like Steven Spielberg. um, Stephen Ridley at Instagram and Stephen Ridley on YouTube, and And that's it. Instagram's becoming one of those things. I used to like respond to every DM, and it's becoming one of those things where it's getting a little bit
Harder.
yeah, it's getting a little harder to do that, but I do look at the comments. I do respond to the comments as often as I can. And that's not just a page to follow me. It's a community. It's a tribe. It's a people that feel the way I feel, and that also want to make that, we're philosophically aligned. It's not a fandom. It's just people with the same vision and goals. You'll read in those comments, there's no haters. And if they are, they get fucking eaten up and torn to pieces, because it is a place of positivity. And music's the thing that gels that all together. But there are people from all different countries. There are people from all different inclinations. We got engineers and doctors and scientists and teachers and students and young people and old people, and Patricia in Illinois at 71, and Vlad, who's 11, in Belarus. We got everybody in this little group, and it's growing. And I'm not even released the song yet. I can't believe it.
You will.
But yeah, you wanna find me, that's where I'll be. And you ever see me in the street, you can stop me and say, hey. I'm always there for a smile.
Cool. Stephen, I want to thank you so much for coming on the Us People podcast.
Pleasure.
You've been such a blessing to have on the show. Guys, thank you so much for listening to the Us People podcast, and please remember you can subscribe and also leave us a review on Spotify, iTunes, Google Play, and any other platform that you prefer listening to. Please also follow us on Facebook, Instagram and Twitter, and you can also donate to the Us People podcast by simply going to the Savia Rocks website, or just typing in www.paypal.me/Us People podcast. Guys, thank you so much for listening. Stay happy, stay positive, and as always, please continue to be kind to one another.
That's so cool. I love the way you wrap that as well. What a beautiful way to end the podcast. This is such a lovely experience. Your questions are like so not what normally occurs in these things. And I knew it would be. I knew when it took me 15 seconds of looking at what you do, and I was like, all right. And this is such a meaningful interview, and I'm like, this will live forever online, and I'm sure people are going to find this for a long time to come. And if I get to become a real big star, people will find it. And this is the kind of content that I think the world needs. And when you ask, like, what's going to be the thing that saves you and what's going to be the thing that inspires you, for a lot of people it's going to be something like this, because it's not in their immediate environment. And it had been like this growing up, and if I'd have known that this existed, I'd have been listening to it all the time. Yeah. So well done on what you're doing, and you keep it up and grow it. Grow. It's fantastic.